guys, I'm Bilyeu. I went from being a stay-at-home wife for 8 years, allowing my dreams and all my hopes to die, to then building a billion-dollar company with my husband, Tom, and also starting Impact Theory as president. We've created content that's been viewed over 500 million times, and I am one of the passionate few. Omar and me literally had so much fun. We went deep on so many incredible conversations about emotions, about feeling good enough, about how you actually communicate with your partner. And because me and Omar have such amazing rapport, I really hope that you guys take away the amazing nuggets of gold that we shared in this episode.
Hey guys, welcome to this epic interview here on The Passionate Few. Today we're on location live here in the studio in the Hollywood Hills with none other than the incredible Lisa Bilyeu. She's not only a serial entrepreneur and a badass who's inspiring millions of people around the world, but she also has her brand new book, Radical Confidence, out. So today we're gonna talk all about her mindset and the obstacles she had to overcome to achieve massive success, and now her mission to contribute and help people around the world. So with no further ado, let's welcome Lisa Bilyeu to the show.
I get a handshake.
Yes.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, Lisa, it's been a privilege having you on the show multiple times, and now we get to do one-on-one, so excited to do this.
Yeah, we do.
Now, before we get started, I just want to give a quick and huge shout out to our sponsor, Mindcore Technologies. You see, the truth is, if you're a business owner going into 2023 and you're concerned with either having a cybersecurity breach, the frustration with finding IT solutions to your challenges, or you're just spending too much money on it, well, you're in luck, because Mindcore Technologies can help you with exactly that. Want to find out more? Simply book a call in the description down below for your free cybersecurity assessment and IT audit.
So first off, I want to get into a little bit about your story, right? A lot of people know, obviously, you and Tom built and sold Quest and now have moved on to other projects. But take me back. Where did this young hustler, where did this young woman with dreams and goals and ambitions before the Hollywood Hills and all this success, take us back? Where'd you grow up? What was your childhood like? And sort of where did that ambition begin for you as a young woman?
All right. It's been a roller coaster. So the ambition I grew up with, I had massive ambition. I wanted to be the next Disney. I actually said to my mom at the age of like 7, I wanted to be Disney. And then she broke my heart. Actually, I said I want to work for Disney. And then she broke my heart and said it's all done on computers. And I would love to just draw. So I was like, well, I don't want to do that. I loved movies. And growing up watching movies, it really impacted me emotionally. I found it a great way to lose myself because I felt very insecure about my looks. I was teased, I was bullied as a kid with mild dyslexia. So I very much got lost in movies, and I found an escapism in them. And I realized, I think, growing up, that it was such a beautiful art form that you can influence people to feel a certain way by putting images, by cutting, by putting music. Like there's all this, you're like an orchestra, a conductor, if you will. And so as a kid, I loved that idea. And I was just obsessed with Hollywood. I was getting up at 3 a.m. to watch the Academy Awards in England, at, the age of 10. And so that led me into going to film school, coming to Los Angeles, and doing a film course in America. And that's where I ended up meeting my husband. And I don't know how much more you want me to go into detail.
How old were you when you came to the States?
So I got my film degree, and at the age of 21, I left my film degree and I was like, okay, I know how to operate cameras, I know how to do photography, and I had to do digital art, but I have zero understanding of how to direct. And that was the thing that I was most interested in, the collaboration with someone, the fact that you can help mold something like an emotion. Like I was so excited, and I was like, I don't know how to even do this. This is why I came to film school. So my friend gives me a brochure and she's like, oh, there's a film school in America. It's called the New York Film Academy. You go there for 8 weeks and you study filmmaking. You get to shoot on the back lot of Universal Studios. It sounded like a dream come true. So I managed to convince my dad to finance it. But the deal was, and my dad's a very traditional dad.
I love this.
So my dad was like, okay, but if you do, the deal is as soon as you get back, you have to immediately settle in, find a job, find a guy. Like it was like, then your life begins. And what I didn't expect is that I would walk in and the teacher would be my future husband. And but in meeting him, it was where the dream started to feel real, because when you have a dream and you're alone in that dream, people look at you like you're crazy and you feel very alone. But when you end up meeting someone that not only shares that dream, that believes in it and believe it can actually happen and wants to put a plan in place of how that can happen, it starts to fuel that dream even more.
Right.
And so that's where Tom and I started. We had these big ambitions of, oh my God, we're going to make movies. And then, as you may know, sometimes the dream isn't a reality. So the first job I ever got on a movie set, I was so excited. I was like, oh my God, I get to be a PA.
How old were you at the time?
We were dating, so I think I was probably 21, 22. So Tom got me a job on a movie set. And the job was, well, actually, I go to the job interview and I had an idea of you always have to look very put together. So don't, like I was very much in my own head. So I would never stand out. I would never wear the things I'm wearing now. So I put on like my high heels, my, like very elegant. And I was going for a PA job. And so they look at me and they're like, you're never going to be a PA. Like your nails are this long and you're never going to be the one that's going to be willing to clean toilets.
Right.
And what they didn't know is I'm absolutely that person that's willing to do anything for a dream as long as it stays within my value system.
Right.
So to cut a long story short, they end up desperate because they had this big failure on set and the only person they had like on hand was like me to call. So they call me one day and they're like, hey, look, we know we didn't actually hire you, but are you free? Can you come and help us? So I run to set and it was this mix of beautiful experience because I was in Hollywood, I was finally having this dream and the realities of the nuances that happened. So I had an experience where I'm on set, an actor's doing his scene, and I'm holding props. I've got like a props box. And he turns around and he's like lighting matches. It's a nighttime scene. He's lighting matches. And so because of the light, I don't know how much you know about this, but because of the light, he has to do like 5 matches at a time. I've been given this box to be on set. He finishes the box and he's like, where are the other matches? Now, me being very insecure, very like in my own head, I start to panic because I look in the box and I'm like, oh shit, there's not another matchbox in this box that I've been given. And he looks at me and he's like, where are my matches? And this is in front of the whole crew. I'm 21, very insecure, and I'm like panicking. And he throws the matchbox at me in front of everyone. I'm 22. He's a semi-famous actor. I've never said his name. He's a semi-famous actor.
Yeah.
And he throws the matchbox and he goes, get me the damn matchboxes. And in that moment, dude, all I could do was be like, you don't get to disrespect me. And so I stood up in front of the whole crew and I picked up the matchbox and I said, I will do my job. I will absolutely get it for you. I promise you, but don't disrespect me and throw the matchbox at me, please. And I was like, and I'll be back in 2 minutes. And I fucking sprint like to the props room and I'm like, I need fucking matches, right? And I grab the matches and I go back to set. After that, he was the most nicest human being to me ever.
Wow.
And in that moment, it taught me that even though it came from insecurity, that when you have your own back and you're just willing to not be disrespected and you can do it with grace, it doesn't mean that you have to put your foot down and make a scene.
But you stand firm in your...
Yeah, I stood firm in that. And I didn't know if I was going to get fired or not. But to be honest, it's just part of my personality where it's like, even though I am petrified to say things out loud, that one thing of being disrespected, I had so much as a child that I told myself that I would never just accept it as an adult. And even though it kind of came out like the chihuahua that like snaps at someone, you're like, really, what are you gonna do? It came out like that, like, oh my God, and then I was like, shit, I can't believe I just said that. But that was one of those stepping stones that I took with me, just as into my adulthood. But to kind of really encompass this whole story, that really deflated me. And then I had another job where I got yelled at by the producer because I was taking photos of the actor, but I was the set photographer. Let that sink in. I was the set photographer, I was hired to take photos, and I got yelled at by the producer because I was taking photos.
Why did they get upset? What was the premise?
Because the actress didn't want me taking photos of her. So she is like, don't take photos of me. So I was like, well, wow. My job, I've got to take photos. So I started being like, oh, I'm just going to take photos during her rehearsal. I'm trying to like problem solve.
Right.
She saw me taking photos, so she pulled the director and producer aside. She's like, you've got to tell her to stop taking photos of me. Now, I stopped because I was like, okay, she told me to stop.
Right.
At the end of the day, it was actually at the end of the day, the executive producer comes up to me and he's like, where the hell are my photos of my star that I've paid a fortune to have on set? And I'm like, you just told, like, I was like, what's happening right now? Like, and I was just like, in shock because I'd never experienced that
Yeah.
type of thing.
And this is your dream, so you're taking action on your dream, and your dream's not turning out like it was supposed to. Yeah, yeah, I can get
And
it.
you think you're doing the right thing by listening to somebody.
Mhm.
And in that moment, I was like, oh, this isn't the life I thought it would be.
Mhm.
And my husband had a very bad experience on his own side of things. And so we came together and we said, wow, we've got all these dreams to build, make movies. And neither of us are actually sure if we want to do it, because we had to ask ourselves, were you willing to play the game?
Mhm.
And the truth is that, I mean, going back to the disrespect thing, I wasn't willing to play the game if that's what it meant. I wouldn't feel good about myself. I know that would erode me even more
Right.
if I was willing to play that game and be okay with people disrespecting me. I already struggle with my self-esteem, so I knew that was going to be freaking detrimental to me.
I love that you mentioned that you tasted it, you tried it, you know, because a lot of people have dreams and they might tippy toe, but they don't actually fully try it. So at least if you pivot your dream, at least you fully committed and saw what it was really like. I love that you say that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for emphasizing that, because I think that there's this conversation going on about, I don't know if you've even heard, like quietly quitting or just, I mean, that's a whole thing, but people that, there's multiple things. There's, hey, you should quietly quit, which means actually you should do the bare minimum in your job and just take the paycheck and keep quiet, which to me sounds crazy. I just don't live my life like that. And then you've got the other side is like, oh, well, if you quit, it means you're a quitter. And it's like, oh my God, would you rather keep going down the wrong bloody path for 10 years
Yeah.
because you're so worried that quitting means that you're a quitter? Or do you want to imagine how you see yourself and tell yourself that you're the person that's able to pivot when you see the light at the end of the tunnel, or whether you see that actually the path you're on isn't right for you?
Yeah, I love that you say that. And also, one thing I realized is that for a lot of our clients, sometimes we go through this because they go, oh, well, I feel like I'm quitting or I feel bad. But I actually think that it's not actually quitting. You might be quitting on the process or the path to the outcome, but you're not quitting on the outcome. So if your outcome is to live your dream with your significant other, you're not quitting if you pivot the path there. You're still going to end up in the same place. So if anything, I think sometimes quitting a task is necessary to honor the commitment in the first place.
That's
So you might be quitting the endeavor, but you're not quitting the outcome.
But even quitting the outcome is okay.
Yeah, totally.
Like when you think about, and I love that kind of refinement, but the outcome also is the important thing. On we all change.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Listen, we'll get right back to the video in a sec, but I just want to let you know that if you're watching this video and you're enjoying it, good, because that's exactly why we make these videos. And also, if you're a 7 to 8 figure entrepreneur and you're looking to grow your business with videos just like this, but maybe don't know how, or you've tried stuff and you're stuck, but you don't want to leave money on the table and you know you want content to be a part of your strategy, you just don't know how to grow that brand, grow your revenue, create videos, and scale your revenue with it, well, you're in luck, because we actually specialize in helping 7, 8, and 9 figure entrepreneurs do exactly that. So if you'd like to learn from those strategies and get a free personalized one-on-one session 100% free, you can simply book a call at the link in the description down below to learn more and hop on a call with our team to see how we might be able to help you. So anyways, just want to hop on here, let you guys know that, and thank you guys. But with no further ado, let's get right back to the show. Enjoy.
Or can at any time, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, once I married Tom, I stayed at home for 8 years supporting him. I was putting out his clothes. I was cooking for him every day. I was a stay-at-home wife for 8 years.
Did that bother you or ruffle your feathers at all? Because,
I felt, yeah.
Because you had ambitions that you were suppressing and
so
that kind of thing?
Let's think of it, the boiling of the frog.
Yes, little by little.
Little by little,
Yeah.
bit by bit. And I think that is how so many of us live, where we're like, oh, I can do this for a couple of weeks. I can do this for a couple of months. Sure, I can give this over for, a year for the greater good, right? The greater good of my family, the greater good of my kids, maybe my partner, maybe for peace in the family, whatever it is. Some people will absolutely sacrifice, and that's okay. The problem is, do you have an exit plan for that sacrifice? I didn't. And so the original goal was Tom was going to go to work and enough money so that we could actually finance our own movies, because we were just fed up of being, someone dictating the art because they hold the resources. So we're like, okay, if we actually have the resources, maybe we can dictate the art. So the goal at the time was Tom was going to go out and work. And we heard an interview with Steve Jobs where he said the reason why he always wears black and jeans is that he never wants to spend a second of his time thinking about what he's going to wear, because we all only have a certain amount of decisions we can make in a day. So Tom and I sat down and we played the game. And the game's called No Bullshit, What Would It Take?
Yes.
Now this means that you assess what is your goal. It could be anything.
And you guys did this as a couple, as a team?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
So, and now we do it all the time. So the idea of this is to establish what you want in life and are you actually willing to go for it? Because the problem is we convince ourselves why we're not there yet. And the truth is, sometimes you're just not willing to do what it takes, and that's okay. But don't you want to know that ahead of time? So Tom and I said, okay, let's actually lay out what it would look like for us to make enough money so that we can go and make movies. No bullshit, what would it take? And so we were like, okay, well, how do people make money? What are entrepreneurs? This was back in 2003, 2004. So the entrepreneur word wasn't even really out there. Like it wasn't the thing.
This was before the $1 billion business.
Yeah, this is way before Quest. This is before Quest. So we were definitely going, okay, no bullshit, what would it take? And we laid out all different options. And we realized, in having read the Steve Jobs thing and doing our own research, our conclusion was that Tom needs to solely focus on making money, like building the business. Anything else, from what he's going to wear, to what he's going to eat, to what hair gel does he use, where's his sponge, he doesn't think about anything. And for a year, I'm going to take on, we call it Bilyeu Enterprises. We even gave it a fancy name, right? And I'm going to be president of Bilyeu Enterprises. And he's going to go out and he's going to earn the money. Now, like I said, you can do it for a year. That's not a problem. I've got Bilyeu Enterprises, I'm the president, so I've convinced myself now why it's a good idea to do it. Even though the idea itself of putting out clothes and cleaning was like, at least for me, again, no judgment on anyone's. If that's your dream, amazing, go ham. But the idea of staying home and putting clothes out for my husband and cooking for him every day was like, I think I'd rather, it was a toss-up between that or stabbing myself in the eye with a fork. Like, it's like, I'm not sure which one I'd rather. But like, this one's only for a year and, you know, like hopefully it leads to the dream. So that's how it's got started. And the problem is that when you start to sacrifice, you end up in a pattern, right? It becomes a habit. And now you start to question, do you want to rattle the cage? And as that 1 year, of course, because what a surprise, we didn't make enough money in a year to make movies, that 1 year turns into 2, that 2 years turns into 3, and he starts building a business with his business partners. And we're making some money, we're making, you know, at this point, it was like maybe close to 6 figures, which was like, oh my God, we've never made that much in our lives. Like it was shared, obviously, because only he was earning, but it was amazing. We're like, okay, we're on the path. Just 1 more year, babe. And he would come home and say, I just need another year, a year and a half, just 18 more months, babe. And every time he would come home and ask for 18 more months, that's where, over time, my identity has shifted. And I had started to develop the identity of being a great supportive wife. So you take my childhood, I was brought up Greek Orthodox. I was told from my dad, I was told from my grandmother that that's where I would end up. Then you flash forward, I do one little bit of sacrifice, and then the belief system of my childhood starts to, over time, implement itself where I end up doing the thing my parents told me I was going to do. And now I start questioning, do I deserve to speak up and ask for more?
Did you build any kind of, and you could be honest, it's okay, Tom won't watch. I'm just kidding. But did you ever build in that process any resentment, or did that cause any kind of bitterness, or were you always a willing participant to override your sort of natural thing? Like, where were you emotionally in that process?
This is a brilliant question.
That's what I do.
Good answer. Because resentment and contempt are like the biggest things I think that's going to fracture a relationship.
Right.
And the truth is, it was all on me. I couldn't be resentful to him because I wasn't speaking up. I literally wasn't speaking up and telling him I was unhappy because I was convincing myself. And here's the freaking trick. What is like the movie Usual Suspects, the quote where it's like the biggest trick the devil ever pulled was to believe that the devil never existed. It's something like that. And it's like we as humans self-soothe. And so every time I was finding myself unhappy as a stay-at-home wife, I was self-soothing. I was giving myself reasons to be okay with my situation. And so the self-soothing was, but Lisa, you have a husband that loves you. You have a roof over your head. Right? And I started to practice gratitude because everyone was like, gratitude's amazing. And it was. The problem is I slipped into toxic gratitude. And toxic gratitude was for me after year 2, after year 3, saying you've got a husband that loves you. It's okay, Lisa. You know, you don't rattle the cage. You know, you're really doing what you need to do. Year 5, year 6, year 7, I start to go, well, how freaking ungrateful are you, Lisa? You want to speak up that you're not happy when other people don't even have a partner that loves them like he loves you. How ungrateful are you, Lisa? You want to ask for a different life and you have a roof over your head? You know how many people don't have a roof over your head? And that kept me trapped. That kept me from not speaking up. That kept me from not telling Tom that I was profoundly unhappy. Because when I think about it, the amount of people that are out there struggling, here I am, I don't have to work. Right? Tom is still working and putting a roof over my head. And what I started to realize over time was we're still profoundly unhappy. But it wasn't even my own unhappiness that pushed me to pivot. It was the fact that after 8 years of me being a stay-at-home wife and Tom chasing money, I realized this has now become detrimental to our relationship. Not because I was resenting him, but because he was so unhappy because he was chasing money. And so
you were unhappy in the relationship. He was unhappy with money. And here you are almost a decade into trying to do a noble thing, but somehow inadvertently getting swept up into toxicity.
Exactly. And he came home every day and it got to the point where he was like, don't ask me about work. I was like, I call it my own personal fight club. It's like the first rule of the Bilyeu household is don't ask about his day. The second rule of the Bilyeu household, don't ask about his day. It was exactly like that. And so it started to get bad. Well, I didn't know him anymore. I was like, I don't know what lights him up. He's such a freaking joker. No jokes were coming out of him anymore. I didn't have that intimate relationship with him anymore because he was coming home and there was this big gap. And it was because he was miserable. Now, once I just said to him, I made a promise that I would do whatever it takes except risk my relationship. And right now, you're about to damage our relationship because you won't stop in this business chasing money. And I don't fucking care about money. Like it really does teach you in those moments. I was like, I prefer it when we were dirt poor, 8 years ago, and I had this husband that was a jokester, than where we are now, where we're earning 6 figures, but you're miserable. And that was like the turning point. And that's when he went into and because it was a risk as our business and as a couple, we've agreed on our goal. Like, I know it sounds silly, but you have to agree on your goal. And our goal is to be on our deathbed happily married. And I make sure that I say happily.
Wow. Yeah. I love that.
Happily married.
I love that deathbed thinking. I do the same in a similar context,
And that's our North Star. And so when So
no matter what's going on in the world and money and stress and this and that, in the myriad of all these competing things for your attention, that's the North Star. That's the light at the end of the tunnel.
And when you agree that is the goal, if one of you speaks up and says, hey, this is detrimental to the goal we both agreed on. Don't you want to make sure that you pay attention? Because if they're right, you better make sure that you deal with it then.
Exactly.
And so we've never disrespected each other and dismissed each other on that. And so and look, also it's the boy that cried wolf, right? It's like if you keep after someone like every day within your relationship, you're like, oh my God, like this is a red flag. And it's like, all right, at some point, but because I hadn't done that, and then I definitely pulled him aside and I'm like, this is now becoming detrimental. He very much paid attention. Now that led to him going in and quitting with his business partners. Him quitting made his business partners admit they were miserable. And that then started the discussion of what would we do every day, even if we were failing, that we would love. And for very different reasons, they all came to a protein bar as the answer.
Yes.
Now, I'm still the great supportive wife because my identity hasn't shifted. I have adopted the identity over those 8 years. And that's where I was getting my validation from. I felt good about myself because my husband was like, oh my God, my wife is so amazing. And I was like, yeah, I am. Now, it was because I wasn't feeling good about myself in any other area. So even though I didn't like the identity I had, I was getting validation from my identity. And it's what I call in my book, the velvet handcuffs. They feel comfy. They're kind of smooth. You kind of like them, but they're still handcuffs.
Yeah, it's Tony Robbins says it. It says most people live somewhere between not happy, but not unhappy enough to do something about it. So they're kind of caught in sort of no man's land in the middle there.
Exactly. I actually call it purgatory of the mundane.
Yeah, purgatory. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
So my life was just mundane enough that I was stuck in purgatory for 8 years. And that's actually the thing. If I'd hit rock bottom, in year 1 or in year 2, I probably would have made a change. How many amazing people have you interviewed, right?
Hundreds.
Where their amazing evolution came from a moment of hitting rock bottom.
Exactly, yeah.
But the purgatory of the mundane is the thing that I talk about in this book, because so many of us, that's where we stay, where it's not bad enough to make that change. And then we use the toxic gratitude to keep us where we are, where we don't think we deserve to ask for more. And so you end up not really speaking up, not asking for more, and not making a change in your life. And it was because it got to that breaking point after that 8 years that's when I spoke up and said something now has to change, because the thing we've said is the most important thing to us is now at risk.
I love that. Yeah.
And so then that's where my identity, as the good Greek wife, I was like, cool, protein bars? Sure, babe. How can I help? And that was where my journey then evolved, because I started as the good wife, and I was like, oh, I can mix, get some rolling pins and some knives, and I was measuring.
Throw some ingredients together. Yeah.
Well, we would like rent a kitchen, so all the wives were like making, like weighing peanut butter. I was weighing the protein powder. The other wife was weighing the sucralose, right? And then we would just come together once a week, and all of us would just take rolling pins and knives and make them with our hands.
Looking back, how crazy is it to remember those times? And I've seen it through your eyeballs, when it was just an idea, pitching and catching, to now be in almost every major store, and having gotten $1 billion valuation, and obviously exiting that business. What does that feel like as you sit here today and look back on that journey from those early days? How does it feel for you to see your idea turn into $1 billion thing?
Well, it wasn't really my idea, so I wouldn't say the idea.
But as a team.
But as a team, for sure.
Yeah.
I don't really think about it, and here's why. I want to make sure that I'm actually truthful. Do I really think about it? I do think about it because I think it gives people context. But here's the most amazing thing that I feel proud about, that I wrote. People wanted me to write a business book. And I was like, guys, I'm not writing a business book. And people were like, you've helped build $1 billion company, you built impact theory. And I'm like, but that wasn't the hardest thing for me. Everything that I did, where I went from a stay-at-home wife to literally shipping bars off my living room floor, to then having 10 employees, to then within 2 years I had 40 employees working underneath me in the shipping department alone, and we were shipping out like $80 million worth of product within 2 years, and I had zero idea what I was doing. The business side of it was easy. You go and Google, you figure shit out. That's it. Like I actually, it's kind of joking, but I actually mean it. No matter what you're struggling with your business, there's someone out there that's been there. Most likely, unless you're reinventing something or you're inventing something completely new. If you've got a problem with your YouTube channel, you don't know how to grow it, go Google it. If you don't know how to do a podcast, go Google it. If you don't know what bloody microphone to use because you want to start, you can Google it. So to me, I was like, I can teach business, but that isn't hard to me because I just Googled everything. The hardest thing for me is when I felt like shit about myself and I'm having to be a boss for the first time. I don't freaking know how to be a boss. To the point, Omar, you're gonna laugh. I hire someone, I'm like the first employee I ever have in my shipping department. And it's one of our busiest days. We launch a new bar, it's freaking busy, and I'm like moving. And my first employee, he's standing there on his phone. I didn't think I had the right to tell him to put his phone down.
Yeah, you were that unfamiliar with the leadership
I was that
role.
insecure about the ability to confidently lead anyone except for my 2 puppies.
Yeah.
And so the voice in my head every single day that I was getting up and going to work and figuring shit out and trying new things, was me fighting myself saying, you're not good enough. It was me fighting myself saying, oh shit, you don't know this. Well, Lisa, you don't want to embarrass yourself. Don't try it. That was the old Lisa. But because I was put in a situation where my house was up on the line, literally we put our house up for collateral. So
yeah, I remember that. Yeah. You guys bet the house,
we
literally everything.
Bet the house.
Did that add a pressure to like, it has to work because your back was against the wall financially?
And I think that's part of my evolution. I think that in moments where the younger Lisa or the previous Lisa would have faced that problem, been insecure and not pushed past it because I didn't want to be bullied, embarrassed, ashamed. I wouldn't have pushed past it because you live in this comfort zone. I know what I know, I'm good at what I'm good at, I get proud, people pat me on the back for being an amazing wife. Well, I don't want to be known as a terrible person that like totally bombed in shipping. So your identity, going back, that's why it was important for me to say identity, because my identity and validation was by getting the pats on the back from my husband. So now if I go and try this new thing over here and I fail, oh shit, where am I going to get the pats on the back from?
Right. At a subconscious level, you're thinking this.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now that's what would have stopped me. But when your house is on the line and you're putting something like that up for collateral, and now where my ego would have once upon a time stopped me, I go, all right, Lisa, you can listen to your ego or you can figure it out and save your house.
Exactly.
And every time I hit a brick wall, I ask myself that question. You can listen to your ego and I give you permission. Or no, knowing that you're going to lose your house, there's no like this is my decision. But make the decision with your eyes wide open. And every single time I chose to figure it out, every single freaking time. And as I started to do that, I built competence. As you build competence, you gain the confidence. And that's where I ended up. And so that's why I didn't write a business book. That's why I don't really talk about the ins and outs of building a business. Because to me, the hardest thing I did was face myself every single day.
I love that you put it that way. Now, take me back to the struggling days where you guys were having challenges. How close and how bad did it get financially? I know Tom told me, I believe last time when we interviewed, it was the three of us, me, you, and Tom. He said that you guys used to actually drive around Mulholland Drive in Beverly Hills in the car and be like, babe, one day we're gonna have a house like this, and drive around. And so you ended up living in the houses that you once dreamed about. Were actually in a beautiful property. But zoom into that part of it, because I know being on this side of the fence, obviously there's unique perspective, but there could be millions of men and women around the world inspired by you, wishing, dreaming of being in your position in their own version of the dream. You know, what, as you reflect back on those days, what was it like when you guys were dreaming, driving around, dreaming of this stuff? Because there's probably people out of this neighborhood doing the same thing. What advice, wisdom do you have to them from what you picked up being on that side of the fence?
Yeah, so I think it all starts with, so as I had said about Tom had built this business with these two other guys, but it made him profoundly unhappy. So we were earning more than we'd ever earned. He was at this, this tech company, it was doing well, they were building it, but he was miserable. So when here we are in this situation where we're making more money than we never made. It was, 6 figures, very low 6 figures, but still more money than we'd ever made. 6 figures here, and he's miserable. So now we're wealthy, but not happy. And so we're like, oh, well, this doesn't work either. Like before we were like, happy and not wealthy. And now we're the opposite. So that was a very, enlightening moment.
Right.
And so we had a very sobering discussion. And so Tom said, babe, if I go and quit, it means that I don't cross the finish line of selling the company with these guys that we've built it with. So that means we give the shares back. Like if we quit, we can't, who do we want to be? And I was like, of course. So we're like, are we willing to literally give back it was like $2 million worth of shares. Of course, until the company sells, it's not really anything, but it was $2 million worth, roughly $2 million. And we just looked at each other and like, well, we've chased money for 8 years and look where this led us.
Right.
So that moment allowed us to go, oh, money doesn't buy the happiness.
Right.
Following your heart and a mission does. And so in that moment, that was the pivotal moment. So when we then said, they came up with the idea of Quest, we then said, this is what it looks like to be based on a mission. Tom's family comes from a very morbidly obese family. I grew up with a mother that was borderline anorexic. And then in my as I got older, she pivoted and ended up overeating and became morbidly obese. So I've seen weight and health be a real issue.
And you've had some health sensitivities as well, right?
I have, yeah, but that actually came afterwards. But our mission, to be able to help our families, for Tom to be able to wake up every day and know that he's fighting. I think it's Mother Teresa that says, like, nobody wakes up to fight for the masses, but everyone will fight for the one. And so who is that one person that you're fighting for? And for Tom and myself, it was our family, right? It was like he loved his mum so much. And the idea of the fact that he could lose his mum 20 years earlier because of a health condition wasn't okay with him. And so we said, oh, the success is never guaranteed, but maybe the pursuit of happiness can be. And so
the mission,
and so that was what then started with Quest. So now that's why we were like, oh, well, we can happily put our house up for collateral. We will absolutely sell the Volkswagen that we were just so excited that we bought, and then keep our really old Ford Focus that had the hole in the exhaust that when you go over, that's the car you're talking about, that when you go over 60 miles an hour, like the steering wheel would like really shake. that's how you make those decisions, because when you've been in that situation and you know what's going to fill you up and that money actually doesn't end up being it, you can make these decisions more with ease. Now, even in saying that, it doesn't mean the freaking journey isn't hard. So when we're building Quest, we've only got this one car now. We've cut his paycheck into half. I think he ended up being around I think it was maybe under $50,000 for 2 people living in Los Angeles.
Oh my goodness.
But we committed. So we were like, all right, I'm going to cut and slash our expenses. I'm going to, I'll collect coupons again. Like I did that when we first got married. I can easily do that because I've seen where money leads us, not happy. And so we committed it. We pinky swore we're going to go all in. And what's the worst that's going to happen? If we lose our house, I know I'm not going to end up on the street because I do have family that has a roof over my head.
Right.
And so once I started to process that, I started to realize that 2 things. Number one, it wasn't a decision that, it was harder for Tom, sorry, actually, let me back up. It was easier for Tom to make the decision about our house than it was for me, and we had to be honest with that. Because I don't want to generalize, but my heterosexual relationship with my husband is very much, he as the guy thinks of the house as being a nest egg, me as the woman thinks of the house as being my nest.
Right.
So for him, he's just like, oh, let's put this up for collateral, doesn't matter. And I'm like, the home I was going to have children in. Right. And so even with the decision, I don't want to just flippantly say, yeah, we just decided to put it up. We had to actually talk about
healthy communication.
Yeah, exactly. Of what does putting the house up mean to you?
Right.
And because I was more emotional about it, we had to talk through that. Because I'm like, what if we do fail and we lose the house? I have to emotionally process this. And because we gave each other the space to have that honest discussion.
In advance too, not later when it's stresses and chaos and emotional triggers.
Yeah. And then that led to the other thought of, I know the man I married. And I know a lot of people that I have also witnessed, they love or they marry someone that's extremely ambitious. And then they complain once they've married them that they're not home by 6 p.m. And Tom and I just ahead of time, it's like, I know who I married. I know that man's never coming home at 7 p.m. Like even now, I eat breakfast by myself and I eat dinner by myself, Monday through Friday. Literally, we wake up, we kiss each other good morning, we have our business, and then at the end of the night, I'm like, oh my God, babe, I haven't seen you all day. Even though we work from our house, we kiss each other good night and we go to bed. Now that's a decision, A, we've made ourselves. B, I know the man I married. He's freaking ambitious. So when he comes to me saying, hey, I want to put the house up for collateral, it shouldn't be a shock to me because I know the man I married. And then the last thing is, I just said to myself, I can get another house. I can't get another Tom. And so that was the final piece for me to be okay with going, because, sorry, one more thing to add. The resentment piece, I knew I could never say, fine, let's just do it. Fine, let's do it. And in the back of my head, I feel forced. Or in the back of my head, I'm like, it's his decision. Because if we fail, you want to know about the resentment I would have had for him if I hadn't.
I told you, I should have. How could I let you?
Yes.
So at least you got it out in advance. You got to talk it out, thaw it out, communicate, see his response.
Exactly. So when he would say to me, but baby, what are you worried about? And it's like, oh, what if I don't have a roof over my head? And he's like, do you actually think that's going to happen? And I was like, no. And so it just, once you then have that discussion and there's no judgment, that's the last thing. You unpack the anxiety, Yeah, like even just like, but babe, I kind of, when we bought the house, I'd actually envisioned maybe we would have kids here. And, okay, that's something that I have to now reprocess. And so giving each other that space to be honest, to reprocess, to rethink through things, it then became quite easy for us to then put the house up for the line, sell our car, share one car with a hole in the exhaust. And now to really close the question, even all of that saying, I'm in, yes, we're in it together. Sometimes they still freaking suck. And there are days where your homies are going out, they're partying, they're spending money, they're going on vacations, and you're on a freaking hairnet in a lab coat on a Sunday thinking, what the fuck am I doing with my life?
Making protein bars to hopefully hit it big one day.
Correct. So you can imagine where you're like,
the insecurities, anxieties,
And everyone's saying, what the fuck are you doing with protein bars? You guys don't know nothing about protein bars. You have experts saying we need another protein bar like we need a hole in the head. And so
you have doctors, nutritionists, your own limiting beliefs. You guys have no experience in it. And somehow you have to push through every day and egg each other on and come up with recipes and think you have the solution that no one else could figure out.
Exactly.
Which is why I love the radical confidence, because a lot of it, like a lot of what you're saying is it's not the stuff. It's about, because we all have the same skin, bones, brain, matter, blood, vessels, organs. The difference is how we activate it, right? And the confidence that flows through it. So
exactly. And what do you do on those days where you want to quit? So we were speaking about quitting earlier, right?
Yeah.
What do you do on those days? And it was Nastia Luke, and I don't know if you know who she is. She's a gymnast, and Tom had her on a show, and she said something that I remember to this day. She was, you know, gymnasts are very young when they start. And so as a kid, she's going to her mom. There are days where she's amazing. There's days that she sucks and she's falling and she's hurting herself, and she turns to her mom. And on those days, she's like, Mom, I want to quit. I hate this. And her mom said, darling, I will always allow you to quit. The only rule is you can only quit on a good day. And do you think she ever freaking quitted on a good day? Of course she didn't.
I love that. I love that.
So that always really stuck with me.
Only quit on a good day.
So
because then it's not the mood or the energy or the trigger or the isolated incident that you're making a permanent decision for.
Exactly.
It's the truth.
Yes.
Because the good day has the truth.
So what do you do on the bad days to keep you going? That's what you need to plan for. So Tom and I, I'm going to bring back the first question that you brought up.
Yeah.
Tom and I, in those days where I'm like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, all my friends are going out, babe. We haven't had the vacation in a year. I'm putting on this freaking hair now. I don't look sexy, but like all the emotions are coming out. We would drive around Beverly Hills. And we would like drive around and look on Mulholland and look at houses and be like, all right, babe, one day, you know, and we're in the Ford Focus and the engine is rattling, right? And the whole in the exhaust is like making the car even louder, which makes you even more embarrassed that you're driving through these neighborhoods. But that was our motivation.
Yeah.
And we would almost like
so wild.
kind of argue in a jokey way about what house we would get. So Tom would like pick out like the Cape Cod houses. And I'm like, I hate those houses, babe. They're so ugly, as if we were about to buy it, right?
Yeah.
But that kept us motivated.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, right? Like, we're driving around. It wasn't the fact of the sacrifice we were making. It was more about how we felt in those hard days about the sacrifice, if that makes sense. So it wasn't about losing the house. It was the emotions I was going through when I'm on those down days of like, oh my God, should I actually be doing this? Or have I just fucked up my life? And so the beautiful way the story ends is we end up making the company a great success, and we end up buying one of the houses that we had dreamt about buying.
Was it literally one of the same houses or on the same street or same
I'm
area?
gonna lie and say yes, but that's a lie. It's like, I don't even remember. It was basically that
the same
area.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up from London. One of my favorite shows was Beverly Hills 90210.
Right.
So the idea that I would have a zip code at 90210 was amazing.
Yeah.
But surprise, surprise, also the punchline to this whole thing is we buy the house of our dreams. The company's literally announced as $1 billion company. We've gone red carpet because we're winning awards. It's like the fastest growing company. We buy the house. One of the dreams was...
How crazy was this era for you when things were just happening, going from zero to that? Was it surreal to you? Were you guys kind of expecting it, or was it everything you guys dreamed about manifesting? I mean...
I'm going to be honest, I don't think I understood business enough to realize what a unicorn it was.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh my God, we've just bumped up 10 million this month.
Yeah.
You know, like it was just like, wow, I guess we're doing well. Like I didn't know what to compare it to because I've been a stay-at-home wife for 8 years. So it felt good when you hear like, Justin Bieber just posted about your bar. Well, actually, Justin Bieber didn't, but Justin Bieber wanted our bars. That was exciting.
Yeah.
But like all these things where you're like, really? They've heard about our bar. It seemed a little surreal to me.
Yeah, or when you walk into stores and you see your bar. Like
that was I took it, of course, selfie all the time. Even now.
I see you in the airports. Yeah,
in there, Request in the wild.
Whole Foods, yeah.
But so the dream, I just want to go back to this dream for a second, because it's not just it's the house. It's embodying the feeling of what it would feel like.
In advance.
Yes. So that was the excitement. That's why we were driving around, because we could have just looked online.
Yes, exactly.
But it's the driving around of
touching it, feeling it. What are the people who walk around it look like? What's the weather like? How's it hit the roof? What's the address? What's the gate?
Exactly.
How much does it cost? Okay, how much would I have to make? Yeah.
Because
you make it real.
I'm all about emotion. That's the biggest thing.
I can tell.
I have to feel it. Yeah, it's like surprise, surprise. Anyone at home? I have to feel it.
Yes.
And so when we were driving around the houses, the big feeling to me was an idea I'm a 90s girl. So I really wanted to, you're gonna laugh at me, Omar, but you know me by now. I wanted to buy a hot bikini, a bottle of Dom Perignon, and twerk for my husband under a waterfall in our mansion. That was the dream. So it wasn't like I just want to own a mansion. I was that specific, by the way.
It was the music video.
Oh, it was it was hip hop music video.
Yes.
Bring it on. And so we buy the Dom Perignon. We buy the freaking house. We have the damn waterfall, dude. And it's like, oh my God, this is the dream come true. And I take a chug of the bottle of champagne. Now, what I haven't said, you insinuated it earlier. I've had health issues. What I haven't said is for the past 10 years leading up to that, I was completely neglectful with my body. I was the person that was just on the grind, working so many hours. My period stopped. I was getting stomach cramps. I was having a lot of health issues, and I just kept ignoring it because I was like, it doesn't matter. Work is all that matters. Success is all that matters. And I ignored my body.
Interesting.
So now you cut to, I was getting sick, taking antibiotics. I had an unhealthy relationship with food because I'd been taught that as a child. So stacking up. I was treating my body like crap. And what happens if you treat your body like crap? It's like a car. It's going to stop running. It happened on the day I was celebrating. I'm chugging the champagne.
Wow.
Tom's taking a photo of it. I literally put the champagne down and I go, what's wrong with my stomach? And I excuse me. I'm like, babe, I'll be right back. I run to the bathroom and I'm in the most agony I've ever been in my entire life. I could barely breathe. This was 7 years ago. Since that day, I'm still working on getting my gut back to healthy. That was 7 years ago.
Wow.
Now, from that day, I came back out of the toilet because I was like, okay, well, just pretend. It's a celebration. I don't want Tom. He's going to worry about me if I tell him that I'm in pain.
Let me pop this. We're rich now.
Like literally, what can I do? Like I just need to maybe more champagne to numb it. Like I was just like, it's fine. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was going to be a long-term thing. So I was like, you're going to be fine. And I literally stepped into the pool because I was like, oh my God, we've got a swimming pool. I step into the pool and even just the slow pressure of the water was so painful. I had to get out. I had to tell Tom the issue. And for an entire year since that day, I could only eat about 4 ingredients. And the only word I can use is it felt like my gut erupted.
Wow.
Like exploded.
Wow.
So I couldn't wear a bra for for like 6 months because even just it around my waist. Yeah. Now, as a woman, when you can't dress a certain way, I couldn't stand up for longer than 5 minutes at a time.
Wow.
I was still working at Quest and I hid everything. So I was going in to Quest with I would have these electrodes attached to my stomach because doctors were trying to figure out what was wrong. And so I had all these things that I was trying to figure out. I couldn't stand up. I was making excuses for people of why I couldn't stand up. I was leaving meetings halfway because I was in agony. I mean, it was bad. And I could only stomach 4 ingredients. And that was really fatty beef, lamb, coconut oil. My hair was falling out. My nails got brittle. And I felt like the worst I'd ever felt in my life.
Wow.
And I don't want anyone to feel bad for me because the most beautiful thing is I learned in that one day, money really doesn't buy happiness.
Yeah.
And if you don't have your health, you have fuck all.
Yeah. There's a beautiful line. It says, a wealthy person has a million wishes, but a sick person only one, to be healthy. I love that. Now, real quick, before we wrap up, I know we're coming down on time. I would love to unpack even more of this, but your book, Radical Confidence, I know it's written for people who, your mission was to help elevate people's mindset. But whether it's men or women, and I know you've interviewed dozens, if not hundreds of women at this stage, I want to ask you real quick, what inspired you to write the book? You talked a little bit about it, but also more importantly, what are some of the biggest challenges you see women deal with? Because, on a lot of social media and personal development content business, it's a lot masculine dominated, right? And you're doing an amazing job with Women of Impact by highlighting the other side of the fence. And I mean that. I'm not blowing smoke. I absolutely mean that. And I love and respect that tremendously. I know we chatted about it a few weeks ago. But what's the number one challenge you see women deal with not just in the context of building their confidence in life and business, but in this new age? And what advice do you have for women on how to sort of overcome that?
Ooh,
Big
that's
question.
such a big question. What is
Yes.
the number one thing?
What's the pulse? Because you have a good
all right,
pulse
here you
on
go.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't even know if it's now or today's society or just in general.
sure.
The thing that I've noticed the most when I interview women, let me back up. The reason why I love what I do is I learn and get inspired every day, every time I have a woman opposite me. Because she's like, there's a reason I'm sitting with her. And so
Right.
I just want to learn. And I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And yet to this day, it still blows my mind when I get epic, freaking badass women and they always tell me they're insecure.
Mm.
Like, I'm insecure. And so I'm also just like, I know it, but I don't. And it still surprises me because I don't like it when people just like, well, Lisa, you're confident. I'm like, oh my God, no. I've got radical confidence. That's why I named the book it, because I'm still petrified on a lot of things. Like, anytime I try something new, I'm about to start a whole speaking thing. I'm petrified, but I'm still going to do it. That's my radical confidence.
Feel the fear and do it anyways.
Yes, but do it in a way with a set of tools that allow you to keep showing up. Because I do worry with the do it anyway, people just think it's like a blanket statement, like just do it anyway.
Oh, just blind action,
Yeah, but what I do is I then come up with a game plan. And that's why I called it the 10 no BS lessons, because I literally use these lessons as a game plan anytime I'm trying something new. So it's how do you show up to do public speaking? So this is the new thing that I'm doing. And it's like, you have to know how to emotionally sober up, know when you're getting emotionally erratic in certain situations, know how to control your emotions. Because if you're going on stage and you don't know how to control your emotions, what if I freeze? Imposter syndrome, work on feeling like you're absolutely good enough. Having the right mindset. Do you believe you can go on stage and crush it? Like, these are all tips that I really do practice in anything I do new, because I don't have the confidence. And yet I still get surprised when I interview a freaking badass woman that has achieved so much. And then they also say, oh yeah, I'm petrified, or I'm totally insecure, or I'm absolutely worried about failing. And yet it's beautiful. It's so damn beautiful in that moment when I hear them say that, because I'm like, oh, thank you. Now everyone else can actually feel like they can get to that level. And it's really that. And maybe that wasn't really the answer you were looking for.
No, I love that we all have insecurities that you would never know. And so it's not the avoidance of it, but rather the confrontation of it.
Ooh,
right?
Like that.
That therein lies the wisdom. I love that. Very beautiful. Well, Lisa, thank you so much for coming on the show. Last question I have for you is, we always play a quick game called First Things First. And the way the game works, we played it last time with you and Tom. I'm just going to rifle off a quick word or phrase, 10. You just tell me the first word or phrase that comes to mind, and then we wrap up.
I'm really bad at short words. All right, let's try.
You can do word or phrase, just first thing that comes to mind before we wrap up every interview. It's okay if it's a couple words or a story, it's fine. Don't overthink it. Number one, radical confidence. What do you hope? What is that?
Oh, sorry, I've missed the second half.
Yeah, no, just radical confidence. What do you hope people get out of the book?
Eventually, so you want to know the actual North Star, is at some point a 14-year-old girl turns around to someone and says, I did it because I have radical confidence, and they have no idea that it came from a book that was written by Bilyeu.
I love that. Number two, money.
Doesn't matter.
Number three, health.
Very much matters.
The key to a successful and healthy relationship.
Being so transparent that you're willing to say the hard thing, even if it hurts them temporarily, for the sake of your long-term relationship.
The biggest insecurity you've had to overcome.
Feeling like I'm stupid.
What advice you would give to the young Lisa and Tom who are dreaming, looking for answers on those rough days?
I wouldn't give them any advice, because as cheesy as it is, I really wouldn't be who I am today if I hadn't have done everything I've had to do, which is why I keep going back to my health. I'm like, I wouldn't change my gut issues for anything, because who knows who I would have ended up to be if I didn't realize health and mindset and connection was the most important thing.
What it was like the day, and Tom mentioned this last time, but the day I believe you and Tom were working out in the gym or something and the wire transfer came through, what that was like when the wire came through that kind of changed your guys' life in one moment. What did that feel like for you?
It does feel like a dream. It's just like, it doesn't really sink in. But we kissed each other, we congratulated each other, and then literally we went right back to work. We didn't take the day off.
Yeah.
We didn't tell anyone at work either. I told my dad and my mum, like I called them on the way. I was like, you're never going to believe what just happened. Because we didn't tell anyone that it was about to happen either.
Yeah.
Because as you know, until the money hits your bank account, anything can change. And so we told no one. We literally didn't tell anyone that we were selling it. We didn't tell anyone there was a potential buyer, and we sold it in portions.
Chunks,
So that if the first portion was the real life changer, we didn't tell anyone. So literally it goes from you living one life one day, refresh on your bank account, and then your life changes.
Yeah.
But the most beautiful thing is we were so committed to our mission once we started to build Quest that when that number changed our lives in our bank account, we kissed each other and we got ready for work and went back because our mission hadn't ended. Our goal of saving people hadn't ended.
Right, because it was so much bigger than the money.
So much bigger. That's why when you ask me about money, it's like actually when you're aligned with something that's so way bigger, like a mission.
It's a byproduct.
It's a byproduct, yeah. Now look, I'm never gonna bullshit. It's fucking amazing, right? I get to absolutely like be able to buy my Chanel necklace. But at the same time, I don't value it as who I am, which is why I also wear a very cheapy Wonder Woman necklace.
You bounce it out.
It's the emotion. It's actually
what it means.
Yeah, like this Chanel necklace is absolutely a reminder that once upon a time, I collected coupons. I absolutely clipped coupons and wished of the day that I could buy jewelry and red bottom shoes. And I think that we're living this really weird time where it's uncomfortable to talk about money. Women shouldn't really talk about money. And I'm just like, look, it's like a superpower. You can use it for good or you can use it for evil. It's up to the person that has it. And so for me, it is actually beautiful. On those days, apart from driving around Mulholland, my friends were going to Starbucks one day. And I know that I'm now like derailing our conversation again. This was the wrap up.
No, I love it.
My friends were going to Starbucks one day. I remember this so vividly, Omar. And they asked me to come along. And I said no because I couldn't afford a cup of coffee. Because I was saving up because we were building Quest.
Wow.
And in that moment, I felt so shitty about myself. But I reminded myself of why I said no. And then I went to a wedding. And I don't know how much you know about women and weddings, but usually you buy a new dress, you want to look good. All the women really take it seriously. And I didn't buy a new dress. I wore an old dress that was 5 years old. And I coached myself, my mental state. You're doing it, Lisa. Quest is going to be big. Don't worry. So I go to England. I pull out my 5-year-old dress. And I coach myself. I'm good. I look in the mirror. And then I walk outside.
Yes.
And there's like 10 other women with new dresses. And as a joke, someone turned around and was like, oh, that old dress again. Oof. Now, I know the person very well. So I know they had no malice.
No ill intent.
No ill intent. In fact, they were probably proud of themselves that they knew me so well, that they had seen the dress. See, I know you. There was no ill intent. But I broke. In that moment, I broke. And I coached myself and I said, Lisa, to pull myself back together, to emotionally sober up, I said, Lisa, it's okay to have emotions. You need to remind yourself why you're doing it. And one day, by golly, you're going to have a brand new, beautiful dress. And you're going to have red bottom shoes. And when that day comes, you're going to be proud of yourself that you didn't let a 5-year-old dress, your emotions, you feeling badly about yourself, dictate your actions. And so I do think it's important to talk about that and to say that, yes, I ended up with a tailor-made Gucci dress with red bottom shoes, and I ended up walking the red carpet at Inc. 500 because we won an award. And I don't think we should shy away from that as women. I think that can be a beautiful thing. The only detrimental thing comes is if you build your self-esteem based on that money, based on that success. And I don't, which is why I say to you, I wear a Wonder Woman necklace because I freaking love Wonder Woman. And every day I remind myself that I am my own superhero. So it's all about signaling to me. And so, sorry, I totally derailed this.
I love that. No, that's beautiful. What does it mean to be one of the passionate few?
To be able to sit with you and feel comfortable being with a homie who has passion and mission like me. And I really think that you are a beautiful pebble in the water that creates ripples, that creates a tsunami. So anytime I can help the pebble, create the waves, I'm all in. And you, my friend, are the pebble.
I love that. I appreciate that. And last but not least, final question is, what do you hope men and women watching this take away from this in the pursuit of their dreams, their goals, their desires, any challenges they currently face? What's your 1 minute or so message to the world for people on how to overcome what's stopping them to finally live their dream life?
It's totally normal to have the fear and to be in a place where you're afraid to make that first step. It's totally normal. But what does life look like in 5 and 10 years if you don't? Are you okay with that? So many people say to me, oh, I'll do that when. I'll start my business when I have enough money. I'll marry that person when I'm settled in my career. I'm going to go for a career once I'm settled in my relationship. There's that when. And the question is, what if that when never came? Are you okay with it? And if the answer is yes, cool. Keep going, do your life. If the answer is no, then it means you have to change. You have to take action. So if that doesn't sit well, take action.
I love that. Very cool. Well, guys, thank you so much for enjoying this epic interview with Lisa. I hope you guys are inspired to take action, and also make sure to check out and grab her book, Radical Confidence. We'll put a link in the description down below, as well as follow Lisa and subscribe to Women of Impact and follow her on social media. Until next time, live strong, live with passion, and I promise you we'll have more inspiring women on the show soon. So thank you so much, Lisa.
I'm going to give you a hug now.
Let's do it.
Let's do the hug. Yeah.
Great job.
Thanks,
Perfect. That's a wrap.